Salvador Dalí is one of the most celebrated surrealist artists, known for his dreamlike, imaginative paintings. But beyond the canvas, Dalí also became famous for his unique sense of style. Today, we'll be exploring Dalí's fashion, not just as an extension of his art, but as a distinct, carefully curated, personal style that helped him stand out in the real world. First, it's important to separate Dalí's surrealist artwork from his personal fashion choices. In his art, Dalí was boundlessly experimental, often distorting reality to explore dreams, time, and the subconscious. But his personal style was more calculated, rooted in classic elegance with an eccentric edge. While his art broke every rule, his clothing often built upon tradition with a twist. Dalí's wardrobe had a strong foundation in classic European fashion. He wore tailored suits and was often dressed as a true gentleman of his time. This was his baseline, a look grounded in refinement, with neatly pressed shirts, fitted jackets, and timeless patterns. Even as he adopted more flamboyant elements later, this classical elegance always remained the backbone of his style. One of the most iconic aspects of Dalí's personal style was, of course, his mustache. Inspired by Diego Velázquez, a 17th century Spanish painter, Dalí's mustache was a blend of Spanish heritage and personal branding. Thin, sharply waxed, and curled upwards, it wasn't surrealist in the sense of his art, but rather a carefully chosen symbol of his identity. This mustache wasn't surreal, it was traditional, almost aristocratic. Yet the way he wore it turned it into an emblem, capturing attention and curiosity in the same way his art did. Dalí's clothing was a sophisticated mix of the familiar and the surprising. He loved finely tailored suits, but often wore patterns or details that stood out, like houndstooth, pinstripes, or bold lapels. Unlike his art, which often had elements of fluidity and the absurd, Dalí's wardrobe choices were crisp, polished, and precise. They gave him an air of elegance, a balance to the wild imagination found in his paintings. He frequently wore dark colors, accented by small unexpected details, sometimes adding a pop of color in a tie or pocket square. His style wasn't surreal, but it was unique and distinct, with subtle hints that set him apart from the average European gentleman. Accessories were essential in Dalí's look, yet unlike his artwork, they didn't challenge reality. Instead, they enhanced his gentlemanly appearance. He carried ornate walking sticks, which added a sense of drama. These were decorated with intricate silver or gold heads, symbols of his status and love for classic craftsmanship. Dalí often wore unusual rings, like his eyeball-shaped one, a subtle nod to his surrealist philosophy. This ring wasn't surreal itself, but it added a layer of mystery and sophistication to his look, like a coded message about his interest in perception. Dalí's fascination with time was a major theme in his art, especially with the melting clocks in the persistence of memory. However, he didn't wear strange or surreal timepieces. Instead, he favored traditional, elegant watches that fit his refined style. A pocket watch or a classic wristwatch, something that conveyed status without overt symbolism. While his day-to-day look was grounded in classic style, Dalí occasionally embraced theatrical, costume-like attire for public appearances. These weren't regular style choices, but rather moments of performance arts. For example, he once wore a deep-sea diving suit to an art event, symbolizing his exploration of the subconscious. However, these outfits were rare exceptions, more an extension of his arts than his everyday fashion. Dalí's wife, Gala, was a guiding force in his life and influenced his style choices. While Dalí's style was grounded in his European heritage, Gala encouraged him to experiment with touches of surrealism in his clothing, adding flair while preserving elegance. Gala, always dressed with an air of mystique herself, pushed Dalí to embrace bold looks for specific appearances, her own fashion blending into their collective identity. Dalí's distinct personal style has left a lasting impact. Designers like Jean-Paul Gaultier and Elsa Schiaparelli drew from Dalí's blending of classicism with eccentricity, a formula that still influences fashion today. However, Dalí's personal style was never as surreal as his art. He managed to keep his clothing choices anchored in elegance, using unique details to make statements rather than turning fashion into a surreal experiment. Salvador Dalí's attire was an art form all its own, but it remained separate from his surrealist paintings. While his art took us into the dream world, his wardrobe was an invitation to understand the man behind the canvas. Elegant, mysterious, and always memorable. Dalí's look may not have been surreal, but it was one of a kind. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Dalí's style. If you are interested in more iconic figures, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned.